Hello everyone, welcome to the spoiler talk for the Fantastic Four First Steps. My goodness, this movie is still in my brain, kind of, but not really. So I have enlisted the help of someone called Wikipedia in order to hopefully help me. So let's just get straight into it, shall we then? So, starting off, we are on Earth 828, which has a reference to Jack Kirby, which is very nice. And apparently the Fantastic Four have been the Fantastic Four for about 4 years. Which is like, okay, so this movie likes the number 4, and also the other movie, Superman, likes the number 3, it seems. But anyway, this movie basically starts off with Sue Storm being pregnant. That's how the movie starts off, and afterwards we get basically a what has happened in the last 4 years with the Fantastic Four, and we basically get their backstory, albeit kind of abridged, very abridged. And also they beat a bunch of people, including Mole Man. So that is very nice. And then at the family dinner, it gets announced by accident, if you saw that clip, where it's like, you're late. Am I? Oh, really? You're pregnant? Okay, yeah. And afterwards, we basically get some hijinks about the fact that a child is coming. Yes, indeed. That is what you get in a Fantastic Four movie. We have to baby-proof the house. We gotta build the crib. We gotta see if the kid has superpowers, because everyone has superpowers, okay? So we gotta look and see if it all, like, we need to make it work, okay? And Herbie is working overtime to make the Thing's life a living hell, which, yeah, actually happens. So then later on, the sky turns orange and the Silver Surfer, female version, appears and is like, your planet is going to be dinner. Bye. So then Johnny follows her in order to stop her from leaving, and then they have a little moment. She says something in her own language, and this is why they made the Silver Surfer female, so that she can have a moment with Johnny Storm, of course. However, Johnny then starts to become a little bit obsessed about the message, and also the fact that, you know, she was actually kind of attractive and maybe into him, who's to say? And also, while all this was happening, apparently Mr. Fantastic has been hearing some stuff in space, and he has recorded it all on these discs, which actually, vinyls, actually, I think is what they're called. But yeah, on these vinyls, and I actually love that, because it is the 1960s, you know? That is when this takes place. But also, it has a bunch of future... I love what they did with this movie, where it's like, yeah, it's the 1960s, you know? Recently, the Future Foundation, which also they make in this movie, in the whole, like, what happened in the last 4 years thing, which when I saw the Future Foundation, I was like, oh, it's that garbage suit from Spider-Man. I couldn't resist it. But anyway, you got the flag on the moon that you see later on in the movie. So yeah, it is the 1960s, but then you got like a flying car and all that stuff. So I love how they are in the 1960s, but they're also way more advanced than anyone on Earth is. It's so weird. Or at least like on our Earth, because this is a different universe. So now we need to figure out a plan in order to prevent Galactus from making our planet food. And basically the plan is, we're gonna go and talk to him. We're gonna go and negotiate something about Earth. They don't necessarily do that, let's be honest here, because there's no negotiating. That immediately gets cut short, but we'll get there later on. But that's what they're gonna do. So they get into that ship that you saw at the end of Thunderbolts, and they head into space, and then they have this warp system in space, and they fly away. However, sadly enough, they appear right as Galactus has been devouring a planet. So then you see this big ship, and initially I thought that was going to be his head, but no, that is just his ship, apparently. That's how he travels around. I actually don't really know much about Galactus. I just know that he eats planets. He's basically Unicron. But I thought he like flew through space, you know, he did something like that. But no, he has a ship where he's inside. So we get pulled inside of the ship, so we go outside. Also, Johnny has about 10 minutes of flame on that he can do. So that is something he immediately uses up in order to have a little bit of a talk with his crush. Yeah, of course, why not? But then we arrive in front of Galactus. Also, by the way, she gave more of a blessing to Earth, and Johnny takes an interest in that, which actually he is also interested in her, but also it's important later on. But anyway, we arrive in front of Galactus. He's smaller than I thought. I thought he'd be bigger, but still, actually, my sister was the same thing. My sister was like, I thought he'd be bigger when the movie was done, when we were talking about the movie. But anyway, Galactus is like, look, okay, I'll spare your planet, but give me your super overpowered child, okay? Give me that unborn child, okay? Once that child gives birth, I want to have the child. And also, personally, this is maybe just a me thing, but I'm like, whose idea was it to take a pregnant woman who is close to giving birth on a trip into space? Like, come on, dude. There is a human being inside of you. Just look, kids are fragile in that state, okay? That is how a miscarriage happens. We don't want that to happen. So why do you take the pregnant woman into space? But whatever. Doesn't really matter. But he wants the kid, and instantly the conversation turns from we are trying to negotiate to an absolutely hell no, dude. You're not taking our kid. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Who do you think you are? But apparently Galactus is always hungry. Can relate. And apparently the child inside of Sue Storm can actually absorb that hunger and in a way become the new Galactus. Because also Galactus is like, I used to be a boy, just regular size, and then I became this big, and now I am always hungry for planets. Also, we learned that apparently the one who decides what planets Galactus eats is actually the Silver Surfer, which is like, oh, okay, yeah, you could have just chosen a planet that wasn't inhabited at all, you know? You could have just chosen an empty planet for him to consume or something like that. Why did you have to pick the planet that was full of people? But now we have to escape, so Johnny flames on, flies around, runs out of oxygen, almost chokes to death because his oxygen levels are too low, and we make it back into the ship. Herbie starts the ships already, and we shoot our way out, and we fly away. However, then the Silver Surfer is following us, so we try to warp away, but then the Silver Surfer is still here being a nuisance. So then Mr. Fantastic has an idea. Let's jump out and go into a black hole, or at least get close. That way we can have her be trapped for a little bit, for about a month, and we can make it home. So we do that. We jump out, we throw her into a black hole, or at least trap her in a black hole. However, we don't apparently have enough fuel in order to make it home, so we need to make a bit of a pit stop somewhere. I don't know how this works, but whatever. We fly off, and then apparently a month later, the Fantastic Four have returned home. So apparently they've been in space for about a month. Sure, why not? And basically, now it's time to tell the people. And of course, the human race is gonna be entirely understandable, right? Now everyone instantly starts hating the Fantastic Four because they won't give up their child. However, Reed still says, I will do everything I can, outside of giving them my own child, in order to make sure that the planet survives, okay? We'll figure out a different way. Also, by the way, something I forgot. I almost forgot. I see it here in the thing. But actually, while we were in space, and while we were, like, flying away from the black hole, Sue Storm gives birth, which I would like to see another woman try that one. She gave birth in space, okay? That is the most badass thing you can do, okay? There is nothing more badass that you can do in order to give birth in space. But now we have Franklin, which apparently some comics people are not necessarily happy about. I don't really know much about it, but the fact that this thing is apparently a cosmic being, I kind of have a little bit of an issue with that, but more in the sense of power scaling, because just like with that woman from Secret Invasion, now nothing really is a threat, because she can just take care of everything, right? That is what happens when you make characters too powerful. You gotta give them something, like, you know, kryptonite or magic or red sun in order to make Superman weaker, that kind of stuff. You gotta give them something in order to turn them weaker. But if you have just this overpowered character, it's not really going to be interesting. However, this child is going to become much more important later on. So now we need a new plan in order to be able to stop Galactus. And also, while all this is happening, Johnny comes up with something because of the fact that he talked to her and he got one of the messages that she said in her language translated by her. She was like, yeah, this is a blessing. So now he is going to use that because he heard a bunch of other messages in order to completely learn her language. And I like how later on the thing is like, he doesn't even know English. How is he able to figure that one out? But yeah, he basically learns her language and also kind of learns what happened to her people. But that's for later. But I just mentioned it right now. But now we need to figure out a way in order to stop Galactus. And to be honest, like someone that powerful, we can't stop. But then Mr. Fantastic has an idea, and that's we are going to use teleportation because he's been working on that with an egg. He has been able to transport an egg. Problem is, it takes a lot of power to do that stuff. So now we're gonna transport Earth to a different place. And I was like, oh, so you're gonna transport the Earth into the MCU's universe. Like, that's how it's gonna work. That is what I thought they were gonna do. So now they need a lot of materials, and apparently within like a month or something like that, or maybe like a week, they built all of these like teleportation things all around the world, and now we can teleport our Earth away from Galactus. And that is the plan. So then he turns it on and they start working, and then Silver Surfer comes down to Earth and starts blowing all the things up. So then Johnny goes out there and he has a talk with her after spreading her message across the planet. We learned that apparently what Silver Surfer did was the fact that she actually became the Silver Surfer in order to spare her planet from destruction. And he's like, why don't you just help us? And she then becomes angry, flies away, never to be seen. And this is kind of like a weird thing for me. Like, I understand why they did that, so that Silver Surfer won't be able to ruin the plan that we have. But also, I don't know, it feels weird that she's just gone from the movie and then later on returns in order to, you know, end it in that sense. That was just a weird feeling. Anyway, but she's destroyed our one and only hope. So now we need a new plan, and Galactus is getting ever closer. So then Reed has another idea, and that is the underground, because of Mole Man being in this movie. So, because Mole Man only really wants to talk to Sue Storm, understandable, she is. Oh my god, she's attractive. Just saying right now, she is so attractive. But we need a new plan, and that is the fact that we are going to use our teleportation device, the one that remains in Times Square. We're going to use that one in order to be able to transport Galactus away. So instead of the planet, we're going to send Galactus away. However, he's going to go through a bunch of buildings, so we need to get the people out, and that's where Mole Man comes in, and he's going to get all the people underground in order to be able to just get them away from the whole thing so we can keep them all safe. So that starts happening. We basically put the entirety of New York underground in order to hide, and then Galactus appears, and I thought you'd be bigger, to be honest. It feels like he has shrunk since he was inside the ship. Weirdly enough, my sister even noticed it. She was like, did he actually shrink when he came to Earth? Because beforehand they were like super tiny, and now they were only tiny. I don't know. But then Galactus starts walking over because he wants Franklin. We are gonna use Franklin as bait, which is something that Sue wasn't necessarily too happy about, but we have to do it. So they put him as bait. Galactus gets close to the location, and then we blind him and switch out the baby for an empty one, so that you know, we can protect the baby, and Galactus will try and get the baby. So Galactus gets close, and then he's like, you clever little buggers. And then he does not go there. He scans, and he sees that the baby's now that way, so Herbie has to protect it, which does not necessarily work. Galactus gets the baby, walks off, and now we have to fight in order to save the baby. And also we gotta get Galactus close enough to the portal so we can get him inside and teleport him as far away as possible, so that it might actually take billions of years for him to return. And by that point, who knows, maybe Franklin will be dead. I don't really think he would really live for billions of years, but still, who knows? Dude's apparently a cosmic being of superpower or whatever. So the team works together, which I really love the way that they work together. You know, also there was that scene in the trailer where you had Johnny behind the thing. Yeah, Johnny in this movie is fully in flame mode when that happens, but they do their best in order to help. I also love the Mr. Fantastic stuff. Yes, it looks a bit strange, but to be honest, I don't think that kind of power is really meant for like live action, just saying. But I think they did the best that they could. However, everything that they do doesn't really work. Galactus is too powerful, boys. He's too powerful. So then when Galactus actually has the baby, Sue becomes a mother, and she has super strength in that sense. And by the way, this is the part in the review where I said some people were gonna have an issue with it. Yeah, it's the fact that she is able to push Galactus all the way back. It's like, yeah, the wrong people are gonna have an issue with this. However, I will say that this is not a woman's strength. It is never going to be a woman's strength. This is the strength of a mother, okay? Only once a woman has given birth and their child is in danger is when the woman becomes Superman. And all of a sudden, she can lift a car in order to save her baby. But normally, she couldn't even lift a tire, you know, in that sense. So this is just a mother wanting to protect her child. So she pushes him back over the edge. Johnny Storm turns on the thing. Mr. Fantastic, I think it was, actually gets the baby away from Galactus, and he goes into the portal, and everyone's like, yay! And then he comes out of the portal, and everyone's like, no! And then Human Torch is like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself. Alright, I love that baby, but he's gotta live with one less uncle, sadly enough. I'm gonna do it, boys. He flies in, Silver Surfer knocks him out the way, and then hits Galactus in through the portal. Galactus is gone. We have one, boys, and this is kind of where I felt a little bit weird, because Silver Surfer just disappears and then reappears in order to get rid of Galactus. That was really the only kind of little problem that I had with the movie. Outside that, this thing is fantastic. But there you go. We did it, boys. We've beaten him. Yes. Okay, fantastic. fantastic. And we still got the baby. However, one little problem. Sue Storm dies. R.I.P. the gal. Yes, indeed. However, for me, yeah, I kind of hate spoilers. And I wasn't spoiled by the movie or the marketing or even like spoiler clips because I haven't seen anything. I'm watching this on the, like, before this movie even comes out because technically it's scheduled to come out on the 25th of July. I watched it on the 23rd of July, so I don't care. Anyway, the thing is that the spoiler that I got was just the Doomsday cast announcement because the actress was in the cast announcement. Vanessa Kirby was on one of the chairs, so for me it's like, okay, yeah, she's not dead, but she was actually dead, boys. I do like the fact, however, that Franklin, the baby, walks up there and she gets some kind of cosmic power in her, becomes back to life. So now the whole team is back together and we can celebrate, boys. We've done it. We've defeated Galactus, and that's the end of the movie. We got a W, boys, right there. And I love the way that the movie handled it because of the fact that the whole world was like, just give up the baby. But this plan worked. Nobody got in danger. I loved it. And then we get the mid-credit scene and I was like, oh my, what? Because like I thought maybe the mid-credit scene was going to explain how the Fantastic Four get to our universe, you know? That is with the last credit scene that we saw. But that seems to be Avengers Doomsday clips, actually. The fact that the Fantastic Four are in our world, and also the fact that this mid-credit scene is also probably just a scene from Avengers Doomsday, which actually gets me really excited about Avengers Doomsday. I wonder if Spider-Man's gonna have a scene like that, because at the moment it is unknown if Tom Holland is actually going to appear as Spider-Man in Avengers Doomsday, and I really want to see it. Anyway, so 4 years have passed again, once again with the number 4, and we have Sue Storm with her child, and they're reading, but Sue walks off in order to grab a better book, I guess, a different book. However, when she returns, someone with a green cloak is just sitting there with the baby, and or like the child, I guess, not necessarily baby anymore, and it's like, oh my god, dude, it's Dr. Doom. What? I mean, you don't see his face, but you see someone in a green cloak holding a mask, and I will say this, that is not Robert Downey Jr. I mean, maybe it is Robert Downey Jr. because my guess is just it's a scene from Avengers Doomsday that was stitched into this one, because apparently the director has come out multiple times and said it is not part of his film. So yeah, okay, these teasers towards the next Avengers movie have exactly been for just clips from Avengers Doomsday, which I'm not necessarily upset about, but I'm happy to see that Dr. Doom at least makes a cameo in a way in the Fantastic Four movie. And that's it. And then the end credit scene is basically just a tribute to the to Jack Kirby, which I think is very nice. And also we get the theme song for the Fantastic Four cartoon that we saw within this movie, so that was nice, but also really a nothing thing. And also apparently, according to this, the original people who portrayed the Fantastic Four in the unreleased 1994 Fantastic Four film apparently made a cameo as civilians who were thanking the Fantastic Four, so that was nice. But overall, this movie is so good. Like, I loved it. I will say this is my favorite movie of the year, easily, okay? Look, I love Thunderbolts, I love Superman, but this is it, man. This is my movie of the year right there, okay? For me, probably top 3, even though I only really saw 4 movies in this year, I think. Maybe I saw 4 movies in this year, but my top 4 is basically, you know, Fantastic Four number 1, Thunderbolts number 2, Superman number 3, and then obviously Captain America Brave New World at the bottom, where you're gonna stay and die, maybe. I don't know, maybe you're gonna die, who's to say? But overall, I thought this movie was actually really good. I can't believe it, because every other time Fantastic Four has been done on screen, they weren't good, or at least like they were entertaining, by the way, but like there was always just something that was kind of wrong about them. Like, I like the 2000s ones with, like, you know, Chris Evans, but even those movies have problems. However, I will not say that Galactus is a cloud. He's not. He is inside the cloud, okay? Just saying. But still, this one knocks everything out of the park. Such a big fan, and I would highly recommend anyone to see this movie, you know? I want to see it again. I actually want to see it again right now, but I'm not going back to the movie theater, okay? I do not have that kind of money, okay? I wanna buy this thing on Blu-ray and just watch it again, you know? Now, I also don't know what the future holds. Now, obviously, it's Avengers and stuff like that. However, apparently, Kevin Feige has come out and said that maybe, because maybe those words were a little bit misinterpreted, but still, the fact is that this might be the end of this universe in that sense. Like, just this storyline. Apparently, Marvel's gonna go for a full-on reboot after Secret Secret Wars, which part of me is like, yeah, sure, because then we can get, you know, Captain America and Iron Man back, and we can do storylines with the two of them that haven't been done before. And by the way, no, Sam Wilson has not necessarily proven to me that he can be Captain America because, well, his projects haven't been good, okay? Like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he was mostly Falcon in that one and then became Captain America, and then he had that stupid speech, so kind of ruined the whole thing, and afterwards he's just basically the main character of Hulk 2. But I want to see like Steve Rogers, maybe like a new take on him with like other storylines from the comic books, because comics have existed for a long time. And I would love to see other storylines be adapted. But also, I'm like, we will lose so much continuity with the MCU that we've had so far. So I don't know how to feel about that. Also, I like how this movie sets up nothing. I love that about this movie. It sets up nothing but the next Avengers movie, which is definitely going to happen. I love that as well. But like I said, this movie was fantastic. So then, let me know what you guys thought about this movie in the comment section down below. And with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching. And I hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new, if not already. Turn on notifications. Don't forget to check out the Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And I'll see you guys Saturday for the big finale for the Revenge of the Fallen Devastator reviews. And next week for Iron Fist Season 1. Bye!